Okay, welcome everybody to AI Horizons. So we have a great agenda for everyone today. I have a few quick announcements that we're going to go over for the first couple of minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in chat. I have workshops to tell you about, some resources to tell you about. We're going to keep questions for announcements specified to chat so we can get back to you in chat or after AI Horizons, just so we have time for our wonderful presenters today. So while folks are still coming in, I'm going to go over a few plugs and upcoming workshops. The first one I want to talk about is a great new resource that is currently in the pilot phase. These are AI guides, and I'm going to drop a link here in chat. So AI guides are going to be Penn State students that are trained to work with faculty and staff on AI. So this is currently in the pilot phase for this semester, and there will be more information to come in the spring. So if you have any questions related to AI guides, you can direct those towards Kim Heckman, and we will make sure to drop her contact information with the links after the meeting. Okay, so we have a couple upcoming workshops from our group and also from the community. So the first one I want to plug here is the new Faculty Discovery Series, which is going to be an informal conversation on AI resources. This is going to be on Monday, October 20th at 1 p.m. It's going to be a 30-minute quick conversation, very informal, geared towards new faculty. So if you are aware of anyone or you are new faculty interested in this, there is the registration form. Please register for that. And then two workshops that were shared in AI Horizons. If you're not in AI Horizons often, it's a great space to stay up to date on what the community is doing, what others are doing across Penn State. One workshop that caught my attention is Build Your Personal RAG System in 40 minutes. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's basically a simple chatbot. So that is being offered by a PhD student, Ho-Sung Yu, in the Workforce Education Development Program. He shared a flyer in AI Horizons. But here is the registration link if you're curious for that. That is happening on the 24th, October 24th at noon. In the last workshop that's actually happened yesterday is the AI Builders Program. Why I'm mentioning this is Jacob Holster is a friend of AI Horizons. He is now the coordinator of CPAD, but he built an AI Builders Toolkit, which is a comprehensive resource of a lot of great information. So I'm going to drop this link in chat and a blurb that Jacob shared with me. If you have any questions on this AI Builders Toolkit, please reach out directly to him. He is looking to build a community around this. So here is more information from Jacob on what this is. And all of these links and information will be shared out after with the recording as well. So just a heads up. And my last announcement before we move on to our presenters is for next month's AI Horizons, we will be moving to the afternoon for November. So it will take place on November 13th, which is a Thursday at 2 p.m. So a different day, different time. But the reason for that is we will be joined by our provost, Soti Ropoulos, and the AI Coordinating Council, who will be sharing some high-level updates on AI strategy here at Penn State. So please join us next month in November. The meeting invite and Zoom information will be coming out later this week or early next week for that. So keep an eye on that. Okay, so any questions on that, please feel free to discuss in chat. We are going to move on to our first presenter today, who is Ms. Clin Lai, a PhD candidate, and she will be talking about the creative or uncreative partner, comparing human and AI as a partner in collaborative creative tasks. So without further ado, I'm going to kick this over to Clin, and she's going to share with us some of her work.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Just give me a second. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we
Yes.
can see it.
All right, great. Yeah, so thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy to share my work. My name is Clin Lai. I am a fifth-year PhD candidate in Roger Beatty's lab. I'm from cognitive psychology. And so just before I start, I would like to thank the generosity of the APA Division 10. Without them, I would not be able to carry out this work. So I will start. Yeah, so the title of my presentation is comparing basically between human and AI as collaborators in creative task. So first, kind of a little bit of background and what is motivating this work. So creativity, I argue, is social in nature. And the question here is, can AI be this social partner that people are seeking? Across idea generation and idea evaluation, which creativity is um, part of, creativity seeks human partners. We know that cross-disciplinary collaboration enhances creativity. Multi-author research actually across different geographical regions that typically correlates with more citations and higher ratings of innovations. So there are different types of creativity, right? So from mini C, which means personally meaningful interpretation of your experiences that kind of focus on your internal process of learning and discovery. That's a form of creativity as well. To big C, which is judged by society to be something that's hugely impactful across time and space. So an example would be like the Human Genome Project, for instance. We can see that creativity is sort of evaluated through social recognition, and it also derives value and impact through social interaction. So with this rise of generative AI and its ability to mimic human speech, it is important to look at its influence as this potential creative partner. So there are a bunch of studies that suggest generative AI can be a really positive influence on creativity. So maybe it makes some people feel like they can be more creative with it. Maybe it makes them feel like they can be much more productive with it because, it's able to generate a whole ton of ideas just with a click of the mouse and a couple of words. And another way that it could be positive is maybe it can help people overcome something called fixation. When you're trying to come up with an idea and you just seem to be stuck on one specific type of idea. Maybe looking at what the generative AI has for you helps you to sort of break you out of that node that you're stuck in. However, these days there are also a bunch of different research, and I mean a whole bunch, that suggests it could be having a negative influence on people. So what sort of negative influence could it be having? People who are maybe already highly creative, for instance, if they use ChatGPT to try to help them write, maybe it's going to result in them producing actually less what we call semantically distant ideas than if they were not using ChatGPT or if they're using more typically other sort of supportive tools rather than ChatGPT or generative AI. And I didn't put it in here, but there are also a bunch of new research coming out suggesting that using it and as a group as a whole results in less sort of diverse ideas that's being generated. So the ideas start to look very similar to each other. So a lot of the previous research that I've mentioned, they tend to look at an individual, for instance, comparing an individual with AI. They also tend not to set any sort of limit or control the amount of contributions from each partner. So you can basically take all of the AI ideas or all of the human ideas. So to really truly understand if this generative AI can be a creative partner, my research is compares between two different conditions, which is between a human-human dyad pair versus a human AI dyad pair. And I kind of try to limit their contribution to 50% each through a turn-taking procedure. And I had the participants basically do two different tasks. One is called the AUT, and the other is called the short story task. The AUT is also known as the alternate users task. So it asks people to come up with uncommon creative uses for a common item like a brick or a bottle. So some examples of a creative idea using a bottle, maybe using it as like a rolling pin, maybe like a bird feeder. And in the short story test, people are asked to write short stories, as the name suggests, inspired by 3-word prompt. So stamp, letter, send, for instance. And so in these two tasks, they collaborate on a turn-by-turn basis. Either they are randomly assigned to role A, which means they start first, or role B, which means they start second. So that's randomized. And they complete the task. In the AUT, they're given 3 minutes each, and in the short story task, they're given 10 minutes. So this results in a more controlled experimental setup, controlling for contributions and all that. And my original hypothesis is that actually it would seem that the human AI pairing should technically score better in originality if we look at all of their responses. But maybe it might score lower in variance. So let's move on to the findings. What did we find? So for all the graphs, by the way, the graphs on the left side is going to be the AUT results, and the graph on the right side is going to be the story results. So just keep that in mind. Scores for the AUT, the alternate users task, was obtained through our lab's automated scoring system. So it's fine-tuned to score responses specifically from AUT. And stories were scored from also this automated system. Is an algorithm that estimates the creativity of narratives by computing all the distance of the words in the text. So that's just a brief background of how these were scored. So the first result showed here seems like the hypothesis is supported that the AI in the AUT is able to sort of perform better. So that's using a full response of human and AI response. This human AI dyadic pairing has significantly higher originality. There's also significance in the interaction. I'm not going to focus on that too much in this presentation. But once you add in different controls, because things like word count and how many ideas were generated to this model, that actually removes all the significance. So there's actually no more significance in the data. And ultimately, I think what we're interested in and what I'm interested in is personally the impact on the humans. So I removed all the AI responses from the data set and ran the same thing again. And the results actually becomes reversed. So people who are working with other people, having human collaborators, actually is more original. The answers are more original. So this sort of set of results suggests that when on the surface, it looks like the human AI collaborators are, it's beneficial to work with AI, but ultimately that could be the opposite. Results from the story task basically remain the same. There wasn't this change, which could reflect just this difference in idea generation and idea evaluation and coherence, because in the AUT task, you're just throwing out ideas. There's less necessity to connect with the previous ideas. So this is the first set of result. And the second set of result, we're going to look at the experience of scores itself. Excuse me. So in this second set of result, we're looking at the variance of scores. So similarly, at first, that seems to be this difference between the human AI and human-human collaborators, with actually the human AI having more range of scores. But again, once you take out the AI's responses, there's actually no difference, which again suggests that the AI response itself is driving all those differences, and maybe the humans itself is not contributing in that. So last but not least, we also look at semantic distance. We look at something called the pairwise semantic distance across each of the ideas or each of the sentence. So a little bit of background on how this is measure what this is about. So the pairwise semantic distance is a way of measuring how semantically far each idea for the AUT or each sentence is from the previous one. So that's the AUT, and that is the semantic distance for the sentences for the stories. So across the ideas and sentences, both tasks, the semantic distance increases in the human partner condition, but sort of largely remains the same in the AI partner condition. So what this set of results is suggesting is that over time, ideas or sentences grow further apart with a human partner, but maybe sort of stay more or less the same with an AI partner. So now we come to just key takeaways. What are some of the key takeaways from this set of results? So it seems like human AI collaborative creativity produces different outcomes from human-human collaboration. And that human AI collaborations do not necessarily guarantee collaboration. In fact, when we control for just basically how wordy AI is, how many words it likes to generate, and maybe if you take that out, that actually results in worse originalities for the humans using the AI. So maybe humans are actually better creative partners, especially when collaboration progresses. Because again, a lot of the research that we're looking at right now is one task and then one and done. But over time, this set of results suggesting that maybe it's better to work with humans. So that's all I have for you today. If you want to find out more about creativity research, please check out our lab website. We do a lot of creativity research in our lab. You can contact me as well. And this is my email address. And so this result I'm presenting is actually not the full result. I kind of truncated for this presentation. If you want to look at the full paper, the preprint is out. That's the QR code. Or if I guess if you prefer to type, that's also the link itself there. Yes, I'm happy to take questions, have a discussion with everybody. Yep.
Thank you so much, Clin. Do we have any questions for Clin and her research?
Can you put the that link in the chat? Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like Carmen has a question in chat. She said, I wish I could cite the study, but I believe I read that team AI collaboration resulted in better solutions. Have you considered expanding the research to 2+ humans plus AI?
Yeah, that's actually a great question because it is linked to my current dissertation work and the eventual goal of where I see this research going. So a little bit about the eventual goal. Maybe that's the most relevant to your question. So right now in my dissertation, I am trying to kind of look deeper into why this is happening because maybe people are doing some sort of cognitive offloading in this current task, or perhaps the idea is that there's not a lot of engagement with the AI. They don't feel like it's maybe a very interesting task. So that's a follow-up to my this current study that I'm doing. The eventual goal is to start a live mapping of these ideas itself using network science. So network science, how do I explain it simply? It's just if you think about a social network in a class, okay, some people are friends with each other, some people are maybe not friends with each other. You can map that out as something that looks like a mind map almost. You have these circles, which are nodes, and then you have these connections with each circle. And we can apply that to thoughts, basically. It's a big field of research. We can use this methodology, apply it to thoughts, and we can look at all these ideas. Are the ideas sort of like clustering together? Are they sort of moving away from each other? Are there maybe areas that have not been explored? So eventually what I want to do is to have AI maybe help map out these ideas across time. Let's say you're discussing with people in a 1-hour meeting, you're trying to throw out different ideas. Can AI try to facilitate that by giving a live network of all the ideas that are being covered. Yeah, so that's the eventual goal. Might take a couple of years to reach because there's some more research to be done about that. But yes, definitely I have considered expanding it to 2 people with AI, maybe even 3 people. But there's some key methodology gaps that need to be filled in before we reach that. Yeah. There are some other questions. So Amy, have you studied folks in creative positions? Anecdotally, working with some of our creative interns has been helpful to get us thinking or give our motivation to go off on our own. Yeah, also a great question because a lot of these tasks that we're giving people, in this particular research, does not presume any sort of expertise. But if you look at creative research itself, expertise itself is a very big thing. So one of the creative myths that people have is that, oh, children are so creative. Like, I'm not saying they're not creative, they are creative, but there are different types of creativity, right? If we're looking in general, if someone is an expert in their topic, they tend to be more creative. They tend to be able to come up with ideas that are more novel because they know what is out there already, and they have thought a lot more about it. So yes, for sure. Studying people in creative position is a big field. If you want, you can look up some papers in that as well. There are papers comparing between people with high expertise and people without the expertise. And back to the methodology of network science, we actually see a difference in the way that the concepts are connected in the brain. And certain types of network, we call it semantic network, in the brain, in the mind, seem to correlate with higher creativity in general. So yeah, great question. Okay, I'm gonna look at the next one. So Carrie has the question. Practically speaking, I can see tasks where it is human AI versus single human only. Is there research on that variation? Yes, so a lot of the research that I cited in the paper, that actually does look at human only versus human AI. So there are a few variations of that. So you can have between groups. So you have this group that's just human only, and then you have another group that's human AI. You can also have a pre and post. So same group of humans, you have human and then same human AI, or you switch it around to kind of like counterbalance it. So I want to talk about that second variation because that's sort of some interesting results that have showed up recently. And what's interesting is that it seems that if you start off using AI first and then you get them to do a task by themselves, people unfortunately end up doing worse. So that doesn't really happen the other way round. So they're comparing between the creativity of these groups of people. And it seems that if you start off maybe relying on the AI, it's a little bit harder for people to either engage in the task or maybe they're too used to using the tool itself. I'm thinking of a specific research as well. This is in the medical field, and it's doctors detecting cancers. It suggests that maybe I can try to find a paper later on. And so I think this is another presenter as well. I'll put that in the chat. So doctors who have used AI in detecting these lumps, tumors, cancers, seem to end up, they use the term de-skilling. They seem to do worse after they have used it. So yes, there are a lot of research on that as well. Very interesting research. I feel like a really big thing is the time scale. Like, are you using it first? Are you using it second? And over time, how does that affect your own skill? That's a big question. Okay, I think one more question. Miller asks, have you thought about creating forms of friction to emulate differences analogous to identity, background, neurodivergence between humans and a model? How about creating forms of friction? I'm not entirely sure I understand this question. Is it possible for you to elaborate a little bit more about what
Yeah,
you're.
I mean, creativity often comes not in the point of a feedback loop that is positive, but it comes in the moment where you have these moments of friction in a
Mhm.
negative feedback loop because you're problem solving to find the point that gets everybody together or the ideas together, and that
Mhm.
comes from different experiences and background,
Mhm.
right? So if you're
Mhm.
trying to model this counterpart, it's beneficial to have those moments of friction embedded in them that are instinctive cues to adjust, to move,
Mm.
and see things differently.
Yeah. So, of course, let me know if I'm not answering your question. But from what I'm understanding, you're asking, is it because basically generative AI or ChatGPT, whatever it is it because they're too agreeable? They're not really challenging you. They're not like really saying, giving you the feedback and saying, actually, maybe this is not a great idea. And I would say, yes, that's actually also another big area of research. There's this term that they're using called sycophony. I think I'm saying it right, where it's just being a yes man. It's saying like, yes, awesome idea, great job to you all the time. And yeah, people have looked at it, and potentially that is one way that we can try to have these models change so it's less, I guess, less agreeable, less saying yes to everything, and that you're doing such a great job at everything, and then challenging you a little bit more and getting you to think. I think that friction that you're saying, being created by either differences in perspective. They've also tried to maybe do like different. They use the term agents, so they try to make these models not so generic, maybe more tied to specific identities. Okay, I think I have maybe one more minute to do this last question, Zach, if I'm right.
Yep. We can.
Okay, great.
Let's do that last question.
Okay, I'll do this last question and then I'll go look for some papers for people. So have similar studies been done over the last couple of years? Wondering the findings are similar or changing over time. So generative AI is super new. People have only been starting it has really only been a big thing, I would say. Okay, machine learning and all that have existed for a long time. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm saying in the form that it's being used today in this UX design, chatbot format, it's pretty recent, maybe 2021, 2022, 2023. 2023 really is when it kind of started to blow up. So yeah, there are studies that's being done in the last couple of years for sure. But all this is super new. So this direct comparison between just human and human AI, I would say mine is like the second maybe or the third that have done it. The one other research, I can also put that in the chat, is by Tang. In 2014, they published it. They have actually also found sort of similar things. And one big thing that they found as well is that if you are using Google, that's another condition that they had. If they're using Google as like an idea platform as well, that actually about the similar results as if you are working with another human. So it's actually more, I guess, cognitively demanding than using generative AI. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that kind of answer your question as well. And I'll put those studies in the chat too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clin, for sharing your research and bringing such a great conversation to AI Horizons. I love seeing research like this. So if anyone here is doing other research around AI or know other PhD students or instructors that are doing research, we would love to share that out here to the community. So thank you again, Clin. That was such a great conversation and chat. And now we're going to shift to our next presentation. We have two great guests joining us for part two. We have Kevin Haworth, Giles writer in residence from the College of EMS, and Elliot Rose, a STEM librarian from the University Libraries. And they will be talking about From Tool to Thought Partner, a faculty development model for AI integration. So I'm going to kick it over to Elliot and Kevin for the next conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone is able to see our screen.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name again is Elliot Rose. I am a STEM librarian here at Penn State. I just finished my first full year here at Penn State after moving from UMass Boston. So I am fairly new in regards to interacting and working with AI, especially in the classroom. So I'm really excited to kind of work with Kevin to present on this today. And I will go ahead and pass it on to him for his introduction.
Hi, everyone. This is my third year at Penn State. I was super excited when Elliot joined us because they talked about their interest in AI in the classroom, which we share. And we've been working together for about 9 months now, very closely in terms of developing some support for faculty in the classroom, which is what we're here to talk with you about today. I'm going to talk really quickly just about some of the layers that happen when faculty are thinking about taking on integrating AI into the classroom. Elliot's going to talk about the role of thought partners, i.e. people like us. I'm going to talk you through the example that we brought, the pilot program that we did with a geography class in the spring, and show you some of the activities that we created. And then Elliot is going to talk about if you wanted to do something similar, here is a sort of checklist that you could follow. So that is the plan. I'm up first. People are nervous. People are nervous about integrating AI into the classroom. The language from the provost urging people to do that more and more is exciting for some people. I think it increases a sense of pressure, dread for other people. I was presenting on a similar topic to this yesterday at a faculty meeting here in EMS, and boy, did people's anxieties come to the forefront very quickly. So if that's something that you're feeling, I understand. I want to say for myself, and I'm going to speak for Elliot, who will correct me if I'm not speaking correctly. I am not a boomer or a doomer when it comes to AI. I think that there are appropriate uses in the classroom, less appropriate uses. I think it has to be very thoughtfully implemented. And I see myself, and I think Elliot sees themselves as facilitating whatever pedagogy you are trying to create in your classroom. And that can look a lot of different ways. And I just really want to put that out there so nobody thinks that either of us is saying you should do X, because we are not saying that. So Elliot, maybe you can take over from there.
Perfect. So one of the things that was really exciting for me is I already have a background interest in regards to things like cognitive load, especially cognitive load in regards to our learners and our instructors. A big part of this is something called technostress, which many of us have probably experienced throughout our lives. Cognitive load is also another thing that we all feel throughout our lives. So a lot of the people that are trying to think about what AI does in their learning or their teaching process is it's really overwhelming because there's a lot of fanfare on the internet about one opinion about AI as opposed to another opinion. There's a lot of doom and gloom or excitement, and it's really hard to kind of come up with how do I make my classroom a really helpful kind of learning experimental space for people to kind of play around with this. So my focus on cognitive load ties in really well to my partnership with Kevin in regards to thinking about how AI can kind of alleviate some of that cognitive load or just help bring up conversations about it. Because I think one of the great things about introducing AI or talking about it in the classroom is it gives students and faculty an opportunity to just be frank. Like, these are some of my concerns. Let's talk about whether we have similar concerns or what we can kind of move forward with to kind of address some of these fears. So like Kevin said, you do not have to engage with AI alone. It's really important to bring in partners both in the library and kind of beyond within technology and writing who have experience with with using AI or are open to thinking about AI in different ways in the classroom so that instructors don't have to do this alone. Technology is changing, but you having to be the only person to be in class and organize it if you're feeling unsure does not have to be the case. So today's presentation is going to highlight a partnership between three fantastic individuals. There was a professor in geography, Jen Baca, and then we had, of course, Kevin in the writing department, and then myself. And all of us work under the Department of Earth and Mineral Sciences, so it was a really great and cohesive partnership that already kind of existed. So we were able to kind of use each other as a thought partner, but we were able to use this conversation to think about AI as another partner kind of in the room. So kind of like the fourth body that students could talk to in the process of thinking about completing projects. And because the students were going to be working on creating a policy. So they were writing policy memos in regards to a environmental issue of their choice. And as you can imagine, that project could cover any big span of topics and issues. So how do we kind of take that overwhelming number of issues and kind of give students an opportunity to think about what do they want to write on and kind of move forward. So I will pass it on to Kevin now to talk about those particular activities.
So what we did was we designed with Jen, in collaboration with Jen, a series of activities to work toward the students producing their policy memo. And the big distinction that is really important to make here is that our approach emphasized AI as process tool, not as product tool. We really tried to avoid anything overtly transactional, like AI do this job for me. What we did was break down the pre-writing process, the writing process, the drafting process, the revision process, and thought about how can we design activities that demonstrate or model how AI could partner with the students at each of those stages. And for each of those activities, we created an in-class worksheet that we did along with the students. The students had their own, but we also modeled how you interact, how you gave them very specific prompts. At each of these 4 stages, there was time for reflection. There was time for the students to think about what direction they wanted to go with their research. So we really, rather than having AI speed up the process, I think in some ways our approach was about having AI help them slow down the process and have opportunities to reflect on different stages. So the 4 big workshops which happened over the course of the semester were: 1, developing a topic, and there the goal was to help them learn how to use AI as a brainstorming tool. We used Copilot for that. Second, we modeled using AI research-specific tools. We used Research Rabbit in this case to find relevant research once they had decided what their topic was going to be. Then we moved into a more explicit writing stage, focusing on the problem statement, which was the key to sort of unlocking the rest of the draft. So they did some writing, and then we modeled how to use AI for peer review. And then we, again, to sort of jumpstart the writing process, we talked about how do you develop an introductory paragraph for this kind of document? How can you use the AI to ask questions, try out different strategies? And here the focus was really on many different ways that you can create effective AI prompts designed to, this is sort of back to Slynn's research, unlock the creativity that's necessary even in a very clearly directed academic document like this. And then, I should say this was all preceded by a workshop on AI literacy to make sure that the students really understood fundamentals. And Elliot and I were both available to the students during office hours to work with them at various times as they processed all the material they were creating through these different workshops. So it was a semester long engagement that I think is also very important. It wasn't like a one and done. Again, we're trying to really de-emphasize transactional use of AI and really embrace process use of AI. Elliot, turn it back to you.
Exactly. I also want to add that I ended up doing a session a little bit later about how to kind of take research and use AI to divide it up into like how to break down your research into a quick 3-page presentation slide so that you can present with your professor. So we were also able to do interactions with students where it was like, here are small ways that you can use AI that's not going to give you something new, but help you kind of organize some of that research. So something that I'm going to highlight here is kind of like a pre-activity checklist. What was our thought process in regards to making this possible? And these steps are something that you can also follow as well. So when you're first thinking about, I have a class that I think AI might be a really good application for, how do I start that thought process? So really it's like identifying a course or a course project or a topic that would require significant research and information synthesis. A lot of students are overwhelmed by research already because in the libraries, we have tons upon tons of databases. So it's like, where do I go? How do I figure it out? And being able to break it down step by step and stagger it with the use of AI is a fantastic way to be like, well, we're thinking about the application of research, but you're not doing it alone just because you also have your professors and peers, but you also have this AI tool. It's also important to reach out to relevant research support services that already exist in regards to generative AI. Penn State does have a website that's dedicated to generative AI research and just keeping you updated about policies and things on campus. But reaching out to your library, reaching out to your writing support, reaching out to IT and seeing what currently exists on campus and how that might be helpful for you. Once you've identified your team and started talking about your ideas, you start the process of mapping out what this could look like in your class. Jen was really fantastic in that she pulled up her entire calendar for the semester and chose, by this point, I want them to complete this academic goal. Let's have you guys come in on this time. So it took a lot of like organization from the beginning to figure out where we were going to show up in different parts of the class. And this wasn't set in stone. Like we could move it around as students wanted to maybe focus on one thing or another throughout the semester. This is a very fluid process and people are able to kind of work with you based on your schedule and the needs of students. Because each semester, the calendar always seems to kind of get messed up depending on illnesses and things like that. So, this was a really fantastic way to identify, like, is Elliot and Kevin available to come in on these days to talk about this aspect of AI and answer questions? And often when Kevin and I were in the class, it was all three of us answering questions and kind of riffing off of each other and doing experiments with AI in the classroom. So students could feel comfortable like, oh, can I ask this question? It's not working out for Elliot. Maybe if it doesn't work out for me, I know ways that I can make the prompts actually work out for me in that particular way. So that was a really fantastic way to kind of do this throughout a semester, which was really, really exciting. The last page that I wanted to highlight here, because there's going to be a lot of excitement in regards to like the breakdown of how this works. So there's our contact information here, but at the very top, there's a tiny URL, which I will also drop into the chat. So what we have done is we created a internal website, a research guide dedicated to possibly creating this type of activity within your class. And it basically is a more expanded version of today's presentation. So it includes a breakdown of both Kevin and I's kind of contact information. The pre-activity checklist is here, as well as some ways for you to think about how you could integrate this into your class. And then here on the left, there's links in regards to the breakdown of the different activities and the different goals that were dedicated to each one. So Kevin and I actually went ahead and uploaded our presentation slides. Kevin also introduced me to Ethan Molnick, has really fantastic blog posts about AI. And I use this now for a lot of my sessions with faculty and students, talking about the different times to use AI and the 5 times not to use AI. And this actually led to a lot of really fantastic conversations during that first session. If you wanted to talk about that a little bit, Kevin, I thought that was really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I would not, I want to emphasize how much AI literacy training is involved in any activity like this, and how little, in my experience, consistently, students really understand what they're navigating when they're navigating AI platforms. I've been using this metaphor lately that students sort of treat AI like a sandwich that they found on the street, and they're like, ooh, free sandwich. And they're not really thinking about all the implications of why there's a sandwich lying on the street, or what it might be made of, or how it got there, right? And so, the level of AI literacy that we need to engender in students to make any of this work is a little bit intimidating, but is really, really necessary. And that's just a core part of any of this.
Yeah, that's something that's been coming up in my mind because I've been going to a lot of library conferences, and there have been a lot of sessions talking about the number of students that think that they understand and know how AI works. So they're walking in thinking that they are already like fully on board and understand how these tools work. So it's another layer of conversation to add to the classroom. I also went to a session. They actually it was at Lilac. I don't remember where they were doing these surveys, but they completed a survey among STEM students, asking them about the different AI tools that they're using. And a lot of them are using tools like ChatGPT, but they didn't use the AI tools that were available through their institution because they thought that those tools were used to identify plagiarism. So they were like, if I use this tool, I'm going to get dinged for plagiarism, so I'm not going to use it. So I think this is also another realm of like conversation about like how AI is being used and kind of viewed throughout all of the institution or even in that particular classroom. I really think that just open conversation helps. And having these multiple sessions where we kind of talked about AI and we didn't make it this shameful thing that we were using was a really great way for students to kind of be able to use and apply this beyond that class. So hopefully you'll be able to use this presentation slide to kind of get some really helpful ways and tools. On this last page here under writing resources, we do have a link both to Copilot and to Claude. So I think this is helpful. And I think
Yeah,
that
and I
might
just want to answer a question. I think one of the interesting things is that Jen came to us because she had very little background in generative AI, and that was a really important part of this process. Was to, we started working on this months before the class started, in order to skill up ourselves and Jen together to work on all this. I want to speak to Breffney's question about Claude. So I use Claude in my personal workflow. I have a subscription. I'm a big fan. We use Copilot in these activities because of the importance of all students using the same platform to be on an even playing field, and 2, because if you log into Copilot using your PSU ID, it offers a layer of data privacy. It safeguards us from FERPA violations and all those sorts of things. It's really important that we don't just start freelancing AI platforms without thinking about the privacy and FERPA concerns. But I love Claude personally, and it is my go-to in my own workflow that isn't student facing. Other questions? Comments? Metaphors? Yes, as Anne mentions, it can very quickly become an uneven playing field with AI platforms. If students can pay for a version and other students can't, then that is, that decreases equity. And so, it was really important for us to say Copilot is the AI platform for this project. Everybody is going to use Copilot. You're going to share your screenshots. You're going to document. I should also add, and this was really Jen's impetus, every activity that they did had an acknowledgements page which talked about how they used AI in the classroom to train them to get into that practice, to really have some metacognition and some transparency about what the AI platform was doing as part of their process. And kudos to Jen for really emphasizing that as part of this. If you go to the LibGuide, you can click on and you can see the worksheets that Elliot and I developed, and you can see at the end how they ask for transparency statements and all of those sorts of things. So Brian says, with all of these research, is there anything regarding the environmental impact of these technologies? Yeah, I mean, that is one of the quickly moving issues. AI is a resource drain. There is some research that's showing that it is not perhaps going to be the exponential resource drain that it looked like it was going to be. There seem to be efficiencies being achieved in terms of electricity usage, et cetera, but it's computing. And that is, that is definitely an issue that people need to think about or grapple with in some way. And this is an opportunity for me to circle back and say, if you are a person who feels like you are not comfortable with that and you don't want to use AI in your classroom, that is that's your right as a faculty member. And I'm not, Elliot's not, again, speaking for Elliot, who's right here, can speak for themselves, right? We're not saying you must do this, you must not, let's ignore the environmental costs. That's not at all right. We're just positioning ourselves as a resource if this is something that you feel like you want to or need to undertake. And I think, the top down guidance that's coming from the provost's office, I think, is going to push a lot of people in this direction, even though there are these environmental costs. And I don't think that's on the provost, that's on the mind of the provost, as far as I can tell.
I agree 100%. And I went to the AAAS conference in February, and the environmental concerns was actually one of the big focuses that a lot of people wanted to talk about. And it sounds like that like people that are using and generating AI are trying to prompt AI to okay, if we're going to do this, in what way can I work with you to kind of limit my environmental impact in other ways? So they're using AI to kind of help address the issues that AI is kind of causing. So I think that's something that continues to grow as well. In regards to things like the moral and ethical uses of technology, I very often, in regards to privacy more specifically, like to tell students to just be aware of your personal use. A lot of these free tools are available freely, and you can create an account where they claim that they won't be processing some of these materials as a way to kind of train the system. But I just like to kind of stay on top of those policies, because the policies can change pretty much any time. Like, we're at the mercy of all of these companies making the AI tools. So really, it's like thinking about how you're using it. Try not to upload your entire paper into an AI tool to kind of get that type of information. I personally don't use AI outside of the classroom and what I do at work, because I am working with faculty and students that are engaging with these tools. So I need to be informed and know how to use these tools so that I can answer questions and explore these questions with our community members. So that's the main reason why I think I personally find it important to do this particular work. I have a lot of issues with AI, but I also know that it is a tool that's not going to go away, and ignoring it is not going to be helpful to anybody, and just letting people kind of do what they want with it. So
And I just want to piggyback on that and say, I think what I'm hearing from students is what they find the most troubling is radio silence in the classroom regarding AI, or feeling like they can't speak to their professors, or their professors are, assuming that, and that students are trying to get away with something. All of these things that shut down conversation, I think, are really unhelpful for students, and they prevent students from becoming literate, thoughtful consumers of this technology. And I do feel like, as faculty, as teachers, whether we're faculty or not, you know, to set students up to be thoughtful consumers of this technology is our business.
loving all the conversation in the chat, by the way.
Yes, this has been a great conversation. And there's been, Jesse shared an environmental impact calculator that is actually on the AI Builders Toolkit that I shared in the beginning. So definitely check out that calculator. I was able to play with it a little bit, but you're able to calculate like your environmental impact or the environmental impact of using AI. And it compares it, like, just check it out. It's really interesting. There are other articles talking about sustainability and AI usage that Roy has shared, Brad has shared. So a lot of articles being shared, a lot of great conversation. And thank you, Elliot and Kevin, for such a fantastic presentation. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to keep this conversation going. If anyone has any questions, I don't want to speak for Elliot and Kevin, but I'm sure you can reach out to them directly. Check out their guides page on the university libraries page. And I didn't plan on this, but this is a fantastic precursor conversation to our November AI Horizons, which Provost Fotis will be joining us to talk high-level AI and what's happening at Penn State, and also the AI Coordinating Council. So hoping to get some updates on what's happening, maybe a continuation of this conversation from Kevin and Elliot. So thank you all. Thank you, Clin, for a fantastic research presentation as well. We have 1 minute to go, so if anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to keep the conversation going in AI Horizons, jump in that team space, tag Elliot or Kevin or Clin if you want to have more questions. And if you have any cool AI projects or things you want to share or know of others, reach out to me, because we would love to bring them into AI Horizons to share out with a larger Penn State community. So thank you, everybody. It is 12, and I will send everybody to lunch because Kevin got me hungry for a sandwich. So thank you.